And welcome back, everybody. We are set for round 2 of the Jelly Jams 4-round 2v2 exciting play matches. This round will feature Travictox and Calieris versus Mini Lily and Voodoos. You'll see their names identifying who is where on the left and right. This one's going to be a little different, only because this time it seems as though both teams have preemptively marked all of their scores rather than last round, in which we had it just for one team. But aside from that, this is going to be pretty much the same show. The only other thing which you'll notice actually is very subtle, and yet during the run itself is going to be rather noticeable as things progress. The Mini Lily Voodoo team will be racing using the vanilla scoring system, which you saw prior to this race starting by both teams, Mike and Pancraz's teams. The Travictox Calieris team, however, is using these Guys Struggle patch to play the game. This is a slightly different version of the game. It's got a few new things added, a few things removed, and a bit of spice added for some of the enemy encounters and loadouts that they may bump into. I'm going to introduce our runners really quick. We got Mini Lily and Voodoos, of course, Travictox and Calieris on the left, top, and right. And we also have Real Critical back on commentary.
Hello.
As per last time, I'll be bringing both running groups into their own private channels where they can discuss freely what they're doing with each other, and hopefully in the 2 hours we'll see 4 jelly kills. Is everybody ready? I don't hear no, which is fine enough for me. With that said, we're going to start off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, begin. Alright, so immediately you're going to notice that the Guys Struggle setup gives you something a little different than what you'd see in the normal race. RC, who built Guys Struggle, is probably the best person to handle that. So do you feel like going into a bit of detail for what the Guys Struggle features are?
Yeah, sure. So in the beginning, if you paid really quick attention to how the cafe looks, you will have noticed that there is no guy in this ROM hack. So instead, another character from the game, as usual, I'm trying to do no spoilers, is telling you to go look for him. So you do, and you will see that the banner looks different. A couple of other changes are being done, and yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's basically a ROM hack that I did for a run in early 2023. And I gave it to Travictox to run blind on our marathon, as I said. And he did clear it within 2 hours. So yeah, I'm very hopeful that these runners here being given all the information about what this ROM hack does ahead of time will actually be able to clear this run here, and as well Voodoos and really playing the vanilla game, as is the one you've seen on the last race for both teams and on pretty much all cave tournaments before. I just want to say one last thing, which hasn't been mentioned yet, is that Eve very much helped me with creation of the ROM hack. Definitely do not want to leave out her name, because she did like half of it. So
RC's got a lot of different features and ROM patch utilities that he's built. And if you type !ROM patcher in the chat, you'll see the command at the bottom. It'll bring you to his website, in which he has the Guys Struggle patch, which I would say is currently the definitive ROM hack of the game, as well as many others, such as the banner width reduction, a few translation fixes or item adjustments. Just a handful of other features. So if you ever feel like spicing up your cave runs because you yourself are familiar with the cave and you want to try something a little different for fun, it's all available there.
Yep. And as usual, if you have any questions, either about the game in general, or about this tournament, or about the ROM hack, feel free to ask in chat. There is a first question right here, is whether Calieris equipped some from a blue chest. That point was actually unmarked before the race even began. I'm assuming there was a misclick, and they will eventually realize it, but right now, as far as I know, the score is 7-7. So yeah, runners are tracking these scores themselves, which is very great because that means there is no scorekeeping, having to get back to the runners, ask them whether we caught everything or not. But of course, it also means that runners will have to divide their attention, which obviously means they will pay primary attention to the run and maybe eventually fix their scores. Unfortunately, that's something we're gonna have to deal with.
We have a party room for Voodoos early on, and if you're just tuning in from whatever you may have been doing previously and didn't catch round 1, there are different incentives in this event compared to just having it be a straight-up speed run. One such incentive is to find a party room that has 6 or more chests, and they can load with up to 8. And if all of the chests that are in the party room are open, then a point is earned. That room that Voodoos was in only had 5, unfortunately, which meant it was not usable for him to score the points. The temptation there is, of course, to open many chests, but for the point incentive, that was not one worth going for. Voodoos discovers Firebird, and this goes into another one of the incentives. The bottom right corner of each runner's screen lists the 2 spell elements in which they are allowed to cast. Each player on a team called 2 of the 4 elements, unique to each other, and those are going to be the spells that are allowed to be cast by a player using MP, not from item uses. So in Voodoos' case, him discovering Firebird just means he found a dead chest, unfortunately, because his 2 party members that can cast it are restricted. He can use it, of course, but it does sacrifice a point towards the 25 points that each team can earn in order to do so. Other spells like healing spells, holy spells, those are totally fine. Pantheon, which is a healing spell immediately picked up, that is free. And Zap or Fry, which are holy spells that already can use, those are free for use as well. Did I mix up the scores?
You did indeed mix up the scores. It's currently 6 points for the blue. Well, 6. You messed up the colors more than you messed up the scores, I guess, now that I'm looking at it. So in the tracker, team all of that is going to be... You can take commentary over here for 10 minutes while you fix that if you want. So that is a bit unfortunate. So yeah, in the tracker, the colors are reversed, which I guess gives us the option. Either I can change it in a tracker or you can change it in OBS. Your choice.
If I just need to flip the numbers around, that's fine. I'll just flip the numbers around.
It's actually more than that, I suppose, because, well, right now when people look at the scoreboard, they will see the blue team being Terravitox and Calieris, and then when they watch the stream, they will see the blue team being Voodoos and Lily.
I see. Then RC, I'm going to trust you to fix this live tech support. No stream is without stuff.
Alright.
Sorry to fix the work.
Yeah, that's great. That's just what was... It's only the 3rd hotfix today, right, for this tracker, so yeah.
Considering you've done 3 years of this being the first year that you've had to do hotfixes, it's pretty impressive.
That's fair.
Let's see what the Great Sir Nico asked. What is the strategy for leveling in this mode? So the Ancient Cave itself and the vanilla scoring in the Guy Struggle patch are largely similar. The monster loadouts are almost entirely the same. EXP distribution is the same. You're not going to see too much that's going to cause the players to level up differently. They're each going to be rushing and picking up a few early enemy kills that they can based on what they discover in the first 10 floors, and then once they hit floors 11 through 13, they're going to be looking for core enemies, which are similar to the metal slime that you see in Dragon Quest games, if you're more familiar with those. They're enemies that are very likely to flee from combat, but if they stick around and you manage to bop them, they give you a ton of EXP. The speedrunners that run this game will often keep 1 or 2 red cores, but for safety, our runners are probably going to be looking for however many they can get. The important thing about the cores is that they come... We know when they arrive, so even though this game may be described as akin to a randomizer, this is not a game in which everything is completely randomized. The enemy loadouts every so many floors are predictable. The chest composition for every so many floors is predictable, so players know when to look for their cores and other threatening enemies to avoid, and they'll be looking for mostly that.
Okay, so I should have a fix for that. But it does require Eli to update a bot command, and then it requires all of you viewers to refresh and or yeah, newly click the scores link, and then everything should be pretty clear.
That's been updated. Okay, everything should be good.
Let's see. That is not.
Oh, that has Gravitox and Colliers in orange. Oh no, it doesn't.
It does not. So excuse the technical difficulties here really quick. We'll be right back with commentary.
Okay,
once.
there we go. It didn't actually save. That's a problem.
Hey, at least this hotfix wasn't something I messed up. So, not to call you out, you know what happens, but like I'm just saying. There you go. This is actually the new scores link, so everyone please be advised to click this most recent link, and then you will see the players in their respective colors, their respective sides. And now, Eli, you still need to flip the numbers because it's actually Team Orange that has 8 points.
Okay. All right, then.
And then everything's great.
I do that. Buletta, you asked what the score is, 7-7, how they got the points that they earned. The scoring system is described fully in the scorecard. If you mouse over the different goals, it'll give you more information as to what those goals are and why they are the way they are, to some degree. I came up with them, so I mean, if you're wondering why the goals are what they are, you can ask me. I can't really give you a valid answer for that, but I can try. And the idea was to just create a neat, entertaining method of scoring to give players an interesting bingo-style method of score achievement, encouraging players to do something in the cave that is challenge and approach it in different ways they normally would, and also play in a team setting where they're doing a few things on their own, but a few things in tandem with a teammate to add a bit of a challenge to the game. So when you're looking at the speedrun of the games, you're not necessarily seeing people do a lot of the things that you need to do, but because this is a roguelike, you never really know what's going to happen, and there are plenty of opportunities for a player to have to do something a little challenging, a little out of the box, or a little bit suboptimally in order to survive a situation in which they gotta just survive to proceed. And the scoring system in Jelly Jams historically has been built around that idea in mind, where there are going to be things that you might have to do or might have to prepare for. Here's how you deal with them. Maybe make a point to encourage the player to deal with them. That way, one, it's something that a player now has experience doing, and two, has shown off to the world. So now everyone can see, oh, hey, this can happen. Oh, well, that's how I can get out of it.
Yep, and it's always a fun little challenge, you know, when you're doing speedruns. That's pretty much true for every game. You're going through the same motions, you know. For the Ancient Cave, it's a bit more varied, since you have to improvise more than you have to execute. But for these tournaments here, yeah, the usual way these are being set up is that some challenges that don't normally appear will be presented to the runners. And yeah, if you look at the scorecard, you can look at that. Also, yeah, this one's going to be interesting because both teams have different goals they're going after. If you look at the bottom right, I guess Eli has already explained it before, but now we can actually see it with the proper colors and all. Team Blue is running the vanilla game with the same goals you saw last round, and Team Orange is running the Guys Struggle Rum Hack with completely different goals.
Yep. Well, so not completely. Each team has a variety of goals that they're going to have to do regardless of what version of game they're running, but each team also has 6 points out of the 25 points that they can earn, which are dependent on the type of scoring style that they're playing. So, for instance, we have the Guys Struggle team. They're going to be having a few goals that are built a bit more in tandem to the ROM patch itself. Voodoo's finds a crisp shield, and he feeds that off. Normally his Salon would be able to equip it. One of the challenges in this case is to simulate a blue chest, a 0 blue chest run. So if you were to do a run and you discover a blue chest, normally you have the luxury of being able to equip it with the optimal command and just have a super strong piece of equipment on. Or you can take it out of the cave with Providence and maybe bring it in on a subsequent run to give yourself more safe opportunities to practice. And the challenge that we're running here, I just put in a point incentive to not equip them at all. And the best way to prevent yourself from accidentally equipping it is to drop it or feed it to your capsule monster and get a little value out of it, pretending it's a magic fruit or a high-level piece of gear that just gives a lot of feeding pips.
Yep. But just like last round, we have 4 very capable, in this case, also long year runners of this game, who I, for the most part, trust to not accidentally equip any items that they don't want to equip. Yep, there's also a question about how many points a team gets if they get to a floor with no stairs. I guess negative, choose a number. That's not going to be pretty. There is no points reward for that whatsoever.
Yeah, in the past there have been fatal blowouts with point incentives based on discovering a glitched floor. It's far too difficult to nice score for Colliers. It's far too difficult to plan around and balance a point structure around things so rare as glitches. Sure, it was a funny little meme thing when I had previous events of this, which featured 50 points plus, so many opportunities to get scoring incentives met. But in this year, we're running a bit of a thinner scoring structure, and because of that, I cut out some of the, you could call them more entertaining goals. It's unlikely that you'll ever see a glitched floor in your, I would say probably in your entire career. I only have seen a few of them myself. It's to the point now where there are not very many glitched floors out there because people like Real Critical collect save files that have them, and we're starting to detect and identify how they occur and what makes them as.
Yeah, it's akin to your favorite fantasy movies, evil overlord who collects the tears of their enemies. I collect save games of soft luck floors, so not for the same reason, but nevertheless.
We found a couple interesting things. Mini Lily and Calieres found curse lifters. Curse lifters are coveted items because they tie into both surviving providing challenges that cave throws at you and also specific point incentives. So curse lifters by the plural amounts for each team are going to be very, very important. So we're hoping each runner finds 2, 3, maybe even 4 to give plenty of opportunities. And we're seeing one of our first differences in Traffic Talks and Calieres' run compared to the vanilla game that Lufia and Lily are running. That is these blue crab sprites you see running around. Normally they only appear in the mid-30s, but they appear to be here.
Yep, there also have been a couple of our enemies that have not been previously seen in the cave, according to my knowledge anyway. So you can see on Calieres' screen these hawks, which are normally exclusive to the main game. The crabs, as Eli has pointed out. And I also want to say that Traffic Talks is a proud owner of his very own Decablade. He just found one on, if I'm not mistaken, floor 15.
So Decker Blade is one of those items that is very important. It lets you know that whatever floor you're on, you can begin finding certain things. And the Decker Blade appears on floor 15 and can appear for the rest of the cave. Now, you're not guaranteed to find it on any floor, ever, really. And it doesn't drop from any enemy. So discovering a Decker Blade early is a huge piece of comfort in terms of being able to reliably know that you can deal with what the end of the cave is going to throw at you. It's not that useful for the run itself, but its very main use is for dealing with the boss at the very end of the cave.
Yeah, it is useful in that regard that as soon as you got it, you know that you don't need to do all that backup farming, enemy kills or whatever you can, and maybe you will for different purposes, but it's way better than what you would have to do if you didn't have that Deca Blade. So in that sense, it does kind of help you even during the run. But yeah, I have yet to see someone kill an enemy with it.
Lily in a precarious situation here. She's in a battle that was forced against a snake in a doorway, and she's rather underleveled to do so. if her team was a little higher leveled, or she had some agility based her blue chest gear for Artie, she could just blow past it with only Artie alive, taking advantage of Artie's high agility and flee from battles that she gets into that don't really matter. But because her team is 1, under-leveled and 2, under-geared, she's forced to not only deal with these fights as they come, but rely on the precious EXP that they do give. And it's not that much compared to if she had earned a core.
Oh. It turns out to be not a forced battle, or this is actually the dreaded soft lock floor that we've been talking about. But yeah, she is in the very fortunate position to have Rally and Champion, which, as far as healing spells go, is the best combination, I would say, because you have a revive spell and a very cheap, very efficient healing spell. So, yep, that is a very solid basis for runs. Healing spells in and of itself don't really help you with a run, it just helps you when runs don't go perfectly, and let's be honest, they never go perfectly. So
of course not. Well, there are other
and
things that
I
can help you
do
run
mean
better
never.
too. Yeah, even the perfect run, even though the top runs of the Ancient Cave that you see, there's obviously things that could have gone better. Enemy loadouts,
Yep.
chest discovery could always be better in a game like this.
Yep. So here's an important question we have to ask ourselves, Eli, which is how much of Guy's struggle are we actually spoiling? Are we trying to make this a spoiler-free commentary and take things as they come, or
I think we can give hints, but then explain what we see as we see them, and if we pass something that would have been a piece of information that we just don't bump into, we can share that later. So the reason RC is being a little secretive, well, I guess you could explain that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you were gonna say, but I'm just saying we're gonna wait to explain that skip floor 50 puzzle goal until floor 50 then.
Yeah, that's fine. The 450 is an interesting feature not available in the Ancient Cave, but it is available in the base game, and you'll see exactly how if you're familiar with the game when we get there. A lot of aprons for Colliers. Colliers did discover a power ring and an eagle rock earlier. A couple of things that you're not going to run into unless you replay the game over and over is that in the Guy's Struggle version of this game, elemental rings such as fire, ice, thunder, and water don't come with the ability to use an IP spell that they would normally provide. They still offer the same benefit of boosting the damage put out by an elemental spell. They just don't cast the spells themselves.
Yeah, and very similar to last-minute jam tracker fixes. That is also based on a bug that I didn't recognize before publishing the ROM hack, and because it was also part of the challenge, that is the hotfix I came up with. I meant to change it in the meantime, but for the time being, that's what we're gonna have to deal with. Yeah, Traffic Talks found yet another smoke ball, and I interestingly saw both him and Colliers pick up one at the same time before, so that's always a great item to have. Obviously, managing your enemy encounters is very important. That's why movement is so important. And having smoke balls is a great way to quickly escape from a battle that did not quite go as you wanted to encounter-wise. We've seen him on the last race here. Mike has used a couple in his desperate struggle, trying to make it a 99 in time.
And that's the really interesting feature about this game, is that there are a lot of tools which you may not think are that useful. Certain weapons will have IP abilities which can be helpful, but a lot of items that you discover along the way seemingly just aren't that great. Freeze balls, confused balls, and sleep balls, you think, oh gee, a status ailment, why not just beat things down? Well, sometimes applying a status ailment or guaranteeing a flee when you would otherwise not be able to are just as important, and there are a few items that offer the player just that. Ideally, you never find those items, and ideally you never need them, but when you have them, and especially a run like this, it's reassuring to have just a little bit of comfort to play a bit more aggressively from time to time.
Yep. As I said before, runs never go perfectly, so you always have a certain subset of what you could have, and that means having to use each and everything that you can to your disposal. Someone previously said, or well, a lot of people in the community, I guess, would agree that status effects or status ailment balls were put in the game specifically for genies. I would definitely agree on that. But yeah,
we just discovered Champion. on Travatox's screen. That is
Travatox.
a good find. The Travatox has access to water and thunder spells, and he himself has the dragon spell, which is great. Also on Travatox's screen, you see a blue mimic, which is an enemy that's normally extremely threatening. They're typically only in the cave from floors 29, 30, and 31, so once you're past them, you can rest assured that you won't see their sprite again. Guy's Struggle offers a few interesting enemy compositions and sprites that you haven't already seen or may have never actually seen if you're new to playing the game or haven't gotten too far into the game. So you may see enemies in floors that you're not used to seeing, depending on how enemy compositions are. I won't spoil.
Yeah, like the Buffalo sprite just now, which I'm not sure. I don't think we're gonna encounter it, but yeah, anyone who's played the game will know that that is a bruise. I will spoil it. Sorry about that.
That's totally fine. There's a green. Oh, nice crystal for Kaliers. There's a green golem statue enemy on Kaliers' screen. That's also an enemy that you don't normally see in the Winter Cave. There's not too many that are not in there, but the few that there are, they'll stand out. If you're an experienced seasoned runner, or at least a fan of the cave, there's going to be a few things you'll see like, oh, I don't remember seeing that. It's probably because they're new to the Guy's Struggle. Again, the vanilla scoring is literally just the game itself. It is not patched in any unique way. It is not modified with some Game Genie code. Well, it shouldn't be. And it's just the straight game. Where Guy's Struggle has a couple of interesting features that are built in by Real Critical.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess the main features you're gonna see are different enemies and then things that you will definitely notice. So don't worry about looking for the little details. Sure, the banners change, but there is no such thing as, oh, this spell does something slightly different. It's very apparent things that you as a player of the main game, aka the story DLC, will probably enjoy.
We have a blue core
story DLC. Obviously the one you want. So I see a bit of feeding here on Voodoo's side, and well, on the blue team side, which means that assuming they want to use their second form capsule and still keep their point for having the same form capsule. Yep, there we are. Lily is also going to feed her capsule monster.
So the incentive for feeding and keeping your capsule monsters within the same form of each other is a point incentive that's not too difficult to meet, but because the game is notorious for not having very consistent feeding logic, you might find it more difficult than you would expect it to be. The North American release will occasionally outright lie to you about what one of your capsule monsters wants to eat, which is unfortunate. But
it's one way to put it.
If you study the format of the game and you're familiar with how some of the rulings are, or if you go to one of Real Critical's database websites, you can see a lot of the hard work that our players and Real Critical have put in to make this information readily available. And if you're not sure where to discover that information, then you can look in the AC Discord, which just so happens to be linked in chat. How cool is that?
Nice segue.
Yeah.
Yep, so now we're seeing Form 2 for both Flash and Sully for the blue team.
Form 2
there has been
offers a little bit more powerful healing and also an interesting attack power buff, which probably isn't going to matter that much, but the healing might help a little bit in terms of conserving resources. The Form 2 Sully that Lily has, though, comes packaged with a one-shot, one-kill attack called Perish Punch, which hits fairly hard for this stage of the game. If used, it's not too likely to be used, but because it can one-shot opponents occasionally, it'll pay for itself in terms of the time you spent to feed them. If you need it, you probably are happy that you have it.
I have to point out a sprite that is normally completely unseen, even in the story mode of the game, which you will see on Travatox's screen in just a little bit, because he has to go back there, which is the yellow flower. That is actually a sprite that can be found in the game, but it's unused. So enjoy. I found that in code lying around. Figured I wouldn't want to let it go to waste.
We're getting more and more into enemies that are a little scarier. If you're familiar with the base game and you just haven't played the Ancient Cave, you'll see these horse enemies. Them, much like other enemies that we've seen just around the cave itself in the right side player's screens, they're designed to show up roughly around the time and the estimated level that the game thinks it'll be at. So there's about a third of the enemies that you don't see in game that you see here, and the armored horses are kind of hard hitting for where they're at. You know, these mid-30s are where they start to get very interesting. And
yeah, there are a couple enemies that unfortunately get quite a bit harder than they're supposed to be, such as these Garbos encounters. Which, you know,
crabs,
when Eve and I were looking at these enemies,
they're balanced, right? They're totally balanced.
I mean, technically, maybe. There's anglerfish potentially spawning with them, and yeah, if they call, like, they can call an enemy that is normally encountered much later. And when Eve and I compiled the enemies and looked at what would be good for what, we both missed that fact. So, yep. Bad luck for you guys.
This is about to be a hurdle for traffic talks to actually have to jump through, because normally you would have access to some powerful fire weaponry and be able to just blow through these enemies before they get a turn, or maybe a deadly weapon, but he is not blessed with such a luckily filled backpack worth of stuff. So he's going to be fighting them because he wants to carve the cancer rock that drops from them, but it's not going to be as easy as it looks like it's going to be for Mini Lily, who doesn't have to deal with the threat of additional enemies. And Lily gets her cancer
such
rock.
temperamental little things is one way to put it. Oh.
Travatox lucks out and doesn't have to fight one of the additional encounters in this. And that is a big relief for Travatox. He was actually the first person to play the first release of the Guy Struggle patch, and he went into it blind. So during a marathon, no doubt, he performed exceptionally well. He is familiar. Of all the people who are doing this, he's arguably one of the best and most informed to be doing so.
Yep. We have had a challenge last year called the Ancient Cave Arena, where this ROM hack was also featured, and I believe, you hear me click in the background, but I believe Trav clocked that one in as the winner. Yeah, that's correct. So, yep. He is known to be quite successful with this ROM hack in particular, so let's see whether luck's going to be with him today as well.
Speaking of Travatox being an excellent runner, we've got runners of this game from all over the world. You may see, oh, this is a regional specific game, and a lot of people in North America play this, but not so much Japan or vice versa. No, there's a huge European audience for this game. There are people who play this all over Southeast Asia, and here where I'm from in the United States, Real Critical is not from the same time zone as I am by far. So the fact that we're able to combine efforts and have people from across the globe have so much fun and trying to not only play this game and do our best, but make it fun for other people who are trying to play it. It's just a testament to how good of a game this really is, even though it's buried and hidden under the gem pile that is Earthbound and Legend of Zelda and the other Final Fantasies.
Other great SNES RPGs.
Yeah, there are so many, but this really does deserve to be up there. It is a very good game, and it's the rare Super Nintendo game that features what could almost be described as infinite replayability in terms of the gift mode, which is a whole Ancient Cave mode available simply by beating the cave twice, or beating the whole base game twice.
And most importantly, it's a game that very much stood the test of time well. It is very playable today, and yeah, we've said that during the last race here, but I can only encourage people to give it a try, play through the amazing story modes, which is amazing both for the story and for, you know, this game's somewhat interesting quirks with the movement that you will also already see there. But then, of course, the Ancient Cave is your reward for playing through that. And I mean, you know, a lot of us are still here, like, what now? 25 years ago, more than 25 years ago, you know? We never left, but it's a game that very much is good, even without the nostalgia glasses, you know?
Now, not to knock the Lufia series, but the other games in the Lufia series aren't known for being the most enjoyably playable. Maybe, you know, the dialogue is a little weird or unfaithful or something. Whoa, that's a party room for Colliers.
Yep.
But yeah, Lufia 2 has aged extremely well, and it
Mhm.
still holds up today. It's a very easy to play game. It has a lot of quality of life fixes, very easy to control, snappy, everything makes sense that you see. There's very little that's hidden from the player, other than, you know, maybe basic enemy information with a lack of a bestiary, for instance. But treasures through the main game are not obscure and hidden. Pretty much everything can be discovered through just hard work and having a keen eye. And enemy behavior in the ancient cave is consistent to the point where you can study it and see what to do and solve it like
Yeah.
just a giant puzzle game, which can make it really fun to replay over and over.
Yeah, and I want to say we discovered a lot about enemy movement since, you know, the past couple of years. But every once in a while, there is a new trick or something coming up that can be used. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
even
very
even as
nice.
early as just a few months ago, people are still discovering new ways to
Yep.
take advantage of enemy behavior or inventory composition or spell behavior or something. And it's
Yeah.
nice when you see a game where those types of features are just always, you know, there's always, you know, a little drip feed of technology, or I'm sorry, drip feed of information that just keeps it spiced up.
Yep. Yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, I don't know if you guys play chess or Go, but like there's the thing of like the rules of the game are pretty clear, you know, even when the movement patterns have been figured out for the most part, or maybe completely, I don't know. Um, like I don't know if we missed anything, but that doesn't mean that the extent of taking advantage of those patterns has already been found. And yeah, that's been very interesting. I was saying so in the last.
Speaking of things that
there's
have been
Deck Blade for
found,
Voodoo's.
yeah, Voodoo's just found a Decker Blade.
Yeah.
It's our second Decker Blade
Yeah,
of the day,
exactly.
of the run, I should say.
Yep. Yep. Again, we have the two teams kind of sort of mimicking each other, it seems.
Yeah,
And
it's
if I'm not
interesting how
mistaken, both are making really fast progress here.
yeah, so being in or around the floor 40 range within roughly 40 minutes is pretty good. I mean, think about this this game is roughly a 100 floor adventure, and you have to do it in 2 hours. So if you're pacing at a floor per minute, you're doing pretty well.
Yep. And of course, you get like if you're calculating it that way, you know, you get 20 minutes to kind of sort of do your thing and not progress. But yeah, honestly, if you do normal runs and you take 30 seconds for a floor, it's long, you know, on average. So
And the more stuff that people find too, like Decker Blades and Cancer Rocks and other powerful weaponry and whatnot, the more often you're going to see people just blitzing through the late cave floors where they don't have to worry as opening. So they don't have to worry about as much.
And which is why we put the additional goals in the cave, you know, so that players don't get bored late in the run.
Yep. So the one of the points that you saw on the vanilla scoring side, if you've looked at the scoring chart for Voodoo's and Mini Lily, is to have an entire round of combat where a silver dragon acts twice. Normally, a silver dragon's not going to act at all because either one, you won't encounter it, or two, you'll just run away from the battle before it does anything. There's other challenges and things to overcome as well. You know, pet feeding, capsule monster feeding, which you may not normally do in a run because you just don't really have a need to. That this tournament's designed to kind of emphasize and try to set up in such a way where you might have to do it one day if you're running the cave. So, you know, here's a great way to learn how to do it well.
Yeah, so that being said, I can only encourage people to learn to speedrun yourself if you want to join the community. Even just do fun runs, you know, you have to try hard to speedrun. And if you want to learn this game,
if you want to learn what anglerfish are, you can look at the bottom right corner of your screen.
Oh yeah, nice.
Just like that,
very,
it dies to a deadly
pretty.
rod. Calieris is using a deadly weapon, and that means Travatox cannot use one himself without sacrificing a team point. So that is an interesting thing to take note of. Curse lifters have been swimming around everybody, unfortunately, but like Voodoo's just discovered one right now. But just like each team has to have each player on the team pick 2 elements to claim as their own magical elements, each team has to pick 1 deadly weapon that comes with the 80% instant kill property, and that player can equip it. But if another player is in a pickle, well, maybe player A needs to uncurse it, so that way player B can get a use, and once you uncurse it, you can't get that deadly kill factor back attached to it unless you find another one, so it can be a little messy from time to time. It's interesting to see how people approach that. So that's one of the more permanent factors of the team-based aspect that we're seeing in this Jelly Jam event that you would normally see in something like Fatal Blowout.
Yeah, and I mean, if I may engage in some analysis of such goals, normally, or I will say in the past couple of years, one could easily forego something like that, and go, okay, well, I'm just going to use the deadly and skip that point. But we've seen the first round ending at 11 to 13, and there's just, I think, a total of 25 points, right, up for grabs. So, yeah, you cannot as easily just ignore single points as you could in previous years due to the overall reduced number of goals. As long as with you guys having it easier to see what's going on if you look at the scores table. I just put the command in there in chat a while ago. I'll just put it in there again. We're not running out of bot commands anytime soon.
Avatar gets beaten up very hard. Fighting a Brins Lizard, which are enemies that are not accustomed to the patch of Guys Struggle, which we just haven't seen on the other two players' screens yet. They dropped the illustrious Twist Jewel, which is the accessory that drops, which has the highest agility out of any equipable accessory. If it's discovered from an enemy drop and not from a blue chest, even if it could come in a blue chest, it is free to equip. So the Twist Jewel is a very valuable drop. It gives a ton of agility, and because agility is such an important stat to make sure that your Deadly Rod users or your Smoke Ball users can go first, it's something that everybody's going to be looking for. Plus, there is an incentive to have your Maxim equip the same rock or jewel across each team. So if you happen to find two Twist Jewels, one for, say, Travitox, one for Calieris, if they both equip one to Maxim, then that's a team-based point that each player has met the incentive requirement for to earn.
Yep. It's not an easy goal to fill, so there's one of the more hard ones to get simply due to RNG, I would say. And then there's also a lot of goals that revolve around reaching the jelly and doing something in the jelly fight, which is 10 out of the 25 points in total require you to get to the jelly. So, yep.
Did you happen to catch that run by Travitox?
I did not.
So there was a ninja in a room, and Travitox was just far enough away from it. Because of the way ninjas move, they move 2 for every 1 step that you take. He was just barely able to outrun it to a door, despite the fact that it did technically bump into where he was standing because he held the run button rather than just tapping it one tap at a time. So his character was in the middle of buffering, moving forward a tile because he started from further away, and that helped him outrun it and not have to engage in a battle, which would otherwise have been a back attack and possibly run ending.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it's always hard to comment on or to commentate on cool movement strats because, as the case normally, you see some cool and then you're like, well, if only you guys had seen that. It's being unfortunate.
Yes, it's interesting how all of our runners are 42 minutes into the cave. They are all within the floor 40 to 50 range of their run. So it goes to show that these runners are all, one, very talented, but two, depending on what the cave throws at you, it's just as easy for someone to be in the lead for 1 minute and then behind in the next. In previous events, there have been incentives to get to floor 50 at a certain time. In this particular run, it's just an incentive to get to the final floor by a certain sort of positioning or place. So the first 2 players that reach the final floor will earn a point, whether they're on the same team or not. Oh, Travitox gets pecked to death.
Damn. So I did not expect that, I will say. That, of course, is unfortunate. I say in a dry voice, but yeah.
Travitox, it is
him being Travitox.
If there's one person that's going to get knocked down, he is the one who can get back up again. Travitox is one of the top 3 runners of the cave. He is one of the only people with a sub 50-minute pace. So if anyone can make it back, and he's proven this in previous events, if anyone can make it back from a loss like this, he would be the one.
He does have the marathon, the Lufia marathon record of beating the cave in hour 3 minutes, which is faster than a bunch of people have beaten the cave. So it's definitely still a force to be reckoned with. And you can never forget that this is still a team-based event. So yeah, Colliers can still carry. We see the same thing. Traffic Toxin now lost his Form 2 capsule, and Colliers immediately switching back to the level 1 Derby, or Form 1 Derby, I should say. So yep, very nice. But yeah, that's very unfortunate for Trav. He will have to do some speedy playing, and we will see how that goes. But I'm not counting him out.
No,
what got him? Those, what are they called? Kokatoris?
He got pecked to death. They're an enemy that you typically don't get too threatened by, but he unintentionally bumped into them. Sometimes you spend a lot of time thinking about how to avoid the big threats, and you have a little bit of a less threatening enemy catch you off guard, and then when they do that, they're able to attack you by surprise and deal some serious damage. So yes, RPG jerkbirds are always present at RPG Limit Break, and for those who are familiar with that running joke or gag, then they've probably played or watched a handful of Final Fantasy games get speedrun on here, which is totally fine. RPG Limit Break is a pretty good hub for speedrunning, especially games like this, where other events like Games Done Quick and whatnot don't feature this particular type of challenge, which is fine. We have our own niche, we have our own home.
Yeah, it was indeed for Kokatoris, as they're called in this very interesting translation. It's worth a mention that this, of course, is gonna very much annoy Traffic Talks, but at the same time, I want to say that there's different running styles, and Traffic Talks, being a very fast runner, a very avid grinder of this game, definitely has a very risky play style, and will take a gamble here or there that in a vacuum isn't very advisable, but that's what makes him run so fast. And most of the time it works out, every once in a while it doesn't, and if that one time is the tournament, that's unfortunate, but I would never go as fast question his skill based on single occurrence like that. And of course, you gotta keep in mind now he's gotta go fast as well, so even if it happens again, I hope it doesn't. Yep.
Let's look over the Voodoos. He is fighting the Prince Lizards. The agility rock that they dropped, the Twist Rule, is a 20% drop. There aren't too many enemies in this game that are fought for their drops, but because one, the incentive to have Maxims wearing a Maxing rock is present, and two, there are a few drops that help with agility, whether they're good or bad at it. If you're an enemy that you can drop it at a reasonable rate, which 20% is absolutely reasonable, and you don't destroy the player when trying to get it, it's worth farming. And there's going to be a few more enemies that you'll see as the cave goes on. Some enemies in the 50s, and then some enemies in the 70s and low 80s, which are going to be farmed. This in addition to the blue crabs, the Garbos, which were farmed in the 30s earlier on by most of our players. It's not too common. I mean, ideally you're going to find the treasures that you want, and you're not going to have to worry about farming at all. But in a game like this, you take what you can get. Sometimes you have to reach out to get it.
Yep. Further language mysteries are being solved in chat here. That's always great. I just recalled that the orange team is running Guy Struggle, which means that, yeah, in and of itself,
Mini Lily hits
Struggle
450, which is interesting.
Oh yeah, nice.
Oh.
Then I will wait for that, but I'm just gonna say the Guy Struggle is in general easier than a regular game. But yeah, due to some enemies being different and our things maybe stopped near a path, it might still be harder to get to the final floor in that ROM hack. But yeah, floor 50 coming up. So
the floor 50 on the vanilla run is just what you'd expect it to be, just another floor in the Ancient Cave with nothing too exciting to it. Floor 50 in the Guy's Struggle run, because Colliers is approaching it with breakneck speed, is going to be a bit of an interesting sight. It has a little bit of music that is unique to it, but it also features just a floor layout chest composition that will be there by force, which you're probably not expecting to see. If you're a long-time player of the game, or you haven't played the game maybe since you were a child, but you did everything, you 100% of the game, you opened all the chests, whatever, you'll see it and you may immediately go, oh my gosh, I remember this. And I'm kind of hoping that you'll see it and get a chuckle out of it.
Well, I think we're gonna get there on Calieris in just a couple of floors. Yeah, on the next floor.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. In the meantime, I'll mention, since this is being brought up in chat, if... Oh, never mind. Maybe I won't have time.
Hey, look, we found Guy.
I'm gonna postpone it. There he is. So... It is indeed the world's hardest puzzle. And... he chooses no. And Guy goes, I guess that's smart. I put that message in there because I figured someone's gonna say no, but yeah, he does skip it. Nice. Which I can see, you know.
In the context of a speedrun, if you're familiar with that puzzle and can do it quickly, which, I mean, I've done it in maybe 2.5 minutes, but I kind of have practiced it a lot. Other people who may not be as familiar, the input style is a little unusual. It's a time sink. The rewards, however, that you get are not what you would see in the base game, and certain players may really want those rewards.
Yep. Mike is proclaiming the RNG lore karma punishment of saying punished for not doing the puzzle. I don't think anything in this floor advances RNG, so he would have gotten to that corridor one way or another, just to throw a bit of nerding out there. But I'm not 100% on that either.
The yellow-red square puzzle that Buletta brings up in chat is... I remember that one challenging me as a child. Then there's 3 of them in a row before you fight the clowns, and the third one was a little strange. Because I was a dumb 9-year-old kid, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, this game does have puzzles that require a lot more thinking than the usual, I guess, Zelda or Skyrim or something, like whatever else. Well, I mean, Skyrim was a lot later, you know, but whatever else you would play otherwise in RPG terms. Because puzzles normally mean, oh yeah, you have to put this rock somewhere else. And Lufia does actually challenge you with a couple of very smart, very thought-out puzzles, which is definitely a grand quality of the main game. And I will say, in my defense, right, game design-wise, this is not a good choice to put this on floor 50, although it is an optional quest. But this was specifically done for Traffic Talks to run at a live event where I knew that another Lufia runner was present that could easily pull through that puzzle. So you gotta keep that in mind. I'm not defending that puzzle to be a good addition to the Ancient Cave in general, but here we are. Lufia is definitely not holding a hand. Yeah, it is challenging you, but in the same time, it's very rewarding once you get things. And
there's a particular reward that the people that are in the floor 50 range, both Lily and Calieris, and Voodoo's as well, are going to be interested in. The Hydoras, the Hydras, the green sprites, and giant snaky head sprites. They have a drop that is almost as good in one way and then better in another way compared to the Twist Jewel. And anyone who has access to powerful ice damaging options or a deadly weapon will very strongly consider trying to take them on. The Hydora rock that drops from them is a weapon that's great for dealing with the jelly. It pairs well with any powerful weapon. It gives a reasonable amount of agility boost, which can really help for Artie outspeeding enemies. And the Hydoras themselves are weak to ice, which normally is a somewhat accessible spell and a not too common, but still common enough elemental weapon that pretty much everybody has access to. They hurt, like you can see on Voodoo's screen, where he got one hit, but one of their regular attacks targets all characters. So they are a battle that can spiral out of control if you get poor luck or are ill-prepared. But the reward for encountering them and defeating them can be well worth it if you are able to do so.
Yeah, something else I wanted to mention is that it has been brought up that the save file for a game has been lost, and with Lufia being an old game and, you know, cartridges run on battery, memory, and so on and so forth, That, of course, is never great. However, even if you're on a physical cartridge, the Ancient Cave Discord includes a couple of ways to very quickly unlock gift mode, and as such, unlock access to the Ancient Cave if you're so inclined. And yeah, there is also a very accessible, no manipulation speedrun route that you could go through and just play through the game in a matter of hours, even as a reasonable, beginner to the game. Yep, and another thing I want to mention is that the God Struggle ROM hack obviously has a couple of additional enemies, not that they're on screen right now or anything, but it just has a lot more enemies from the main game, which means it also has more enemy drops. So Trevitox and Colliers here potentially can get a couple more items. A very select few of them being really useful that Voodoos and Mini Lily just don't have access to because they chose a different game mode.
Trevitox discovered Valor, which to pair with his his Fry and his Thunder gives him some pretty good offenses for a variety of enemies that are going to be coming up. So having Valor is great for sustainability, and I bet he wishes he had that in the previous run, so that way he could not have to deal with certain encounter recovery that you might normally not be able to deal with. Calieris has an interesting room. It's a party room. It has that chest requirement, although I think he's already gotten it. But some of the enemies you'll see have loaded on top of chests. That is because their positioning is based on their left side, or their lower left side of their sprite. So even though their feet may be standing on a chest, you'll notice that in their cases, it's always going to be the right side of that character sprite is on top of a chest, and that's just because of how they load in. It's another quirk that you may see our racers taking advantage of, and this is not a ROM anything, this is just how the game works.
Yeah.
Enemies load into a floor facing downward if they have a face to face at all. Enemies like a jelly wouldn't have a face, so you can't really get a back attack or a surprise attack on it. But Hydras and these Cyclopses, ninjas, they load in facing downwards. So when you enter stairs, you can minimize some of the potential harm that you might deal with when you walk into a floor, especially if you walk into the stairs sideways because they're maybe against a wall or something. If you hold the R button and hold up while walking onto a flight of stairs, you will buffer up directional face without actually stepping, and that will occur before the enemies have finished loading on the screen, and therefore you'll prevent yourself from potentially getting surprise attacked by enemies you haven't even seen yet on a floor you haven't been to.
Yeah, it's very technical, and tying into what you said, the game is definitely not free of bugs, but at the same time, bugs kind of make every speedrun more interesting. I'm personally not a fan of like a lot of out-of-bounds stuff, but everything else is, up for the taking, and this game has a lot of movement things that can be abused, and then stuff like enemies on top of stairs, and chests have special properties, so all that is kind of interesting.
I don't think Calieris is going for all the enemies. However, if he does, I don't have the tracker up right here. He has already opened.
Let me put the command in chat for you.
Yeah, that's great.
So
that's great. I had the team one for Voodoos and Lily up. I think he's attacking enemies just to get a clear path to the chest through the enemies that he feels are the least dangerous, and he'd be right to be going after these guys, even though there's a bush in the way, which of course kind of a suboptimal situation here. The flying guys with the red and yellow color palette, the Sly Foxes, are arguably the most dangerous enemies in this room. They are very fast, they hit extremely hard, they hit AoE, and they attack with the Thunder element, which is powerful and difficult to resist. They try not to run into you, but it's very easy to get them trapped in a place where you have to engage combat with them to deal with them, even though they do technically run away from you as often as they can on the overworld sprites. He is fighting the path with the least resistance, so to speak, to deal with these threats here. The birds that you see here are crows, and they just hit kind of hard, but they don't have AoE. They only come in pairs, and they don't cast magic, which is impossible to effectively resist. They kick you once each, and they have a ton of HP, but you can outrun them eventually. And
I
advantage.
am looking at Trev's party HP and being alive situation. And I do have to wonder whether Trevitox is kind of running low on healing, perhaps. Oh, I see 4 miracles though. So.
He has a Decker Blade and Valor. I think he's good.
Yeah, Trevitox just found another Decker Blade, and speaking of which, I saw Mini Lily pick up a Lizablow, yet another Lizablow, I should say, a couple of minutes ago. So yeah, there is definitely an inflation on those today. I don't think I've seen that many Lizablows in turning ever.
Lizard Blows typically only appear as of floor 50, and because enemies can be so dangerous and threatening that you'll be dissuaded from opening chests after, say, floor 60 to 70, it's unlikely that you may actually see a Lizard Blow. For someone to see 1 or even 2 in a single run is fantastic, because it's the best weapon that has a built-in 3x attack multiplier, which is a prime jelly killing weapon. Everybody wants one. Everybody can equip one. So if you're not using a powerful fractional weapon like a Decker Blade, the Lizard Blow is right near the top of that list. That said, finding multiple in the course of an event like this is even more fantastic because, well, again, everybody wants one and they're thrilled to see. They let you kind of turn off your brain and have a simple setup option for your characters that may not otherwise have very good damaging options.
Yep. And in Gust Struggle, there's even a couple more jelly options than in the vanilla game. We'll see whether that comes into play, but yep. It is an option. We didn't mention this before, but Colliers actually got a point for the orange team for skipping the floor 50 puzzle rewards. So, yep.
It was a bit discouraging because we would love to encourage people to watch the puzzle get completed and see what the rewards are, to say, hey, look, playing this puzzle, the rewards are actually good, or good for a laugh, or hey, this is good for feeding, or whatever the good for may be. And I'd love for you to see that. But as a point incentive, you're encouraged to race the clock, and taking time to do the puzzle may be a race against the clock that you're not interested in putting in. So we are nearing the halfway point of our time, and we'll see that Trevitox is already making fabulous progress, being knee-deep in the 20s. We have other racers in the 60s, and for a 100-floor run, being in the 60s with 60 minutes left, I mean, ideally, that seems pretty good, right?
Yeah, that obviously Trev has to take a leg for it, but everyone else shouldn't have to worry pretty much about getting to jelly in the time. But of course, we saw it last race. Things do come up every once in a while that are unexpected. There are roadblocks, and if you take too much time, then you might be running out of it at the end. So.
Or if you don't fully examine your environment while running around, then you might miss something that could help save you the time that you need in order to pull some big last-minute play off.
Mike. Yeah, I guess I always. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying Mike had the opportunity there near the end of his run, and he unfortunately didn't catch the stairs in his room.
Yeah. I was gonna say it never occurred to me because I always kind of took it for granted, but for Lufia runs, we kind of do this 2-hour time limit thing that isn't very usual for speedrun races. Normally you have like, okay, whoever finishes it and whatever, and you have an estimate, right? But like for Lufia runs, it's okay. Anything could happen, so just do your best within 2 hours. it's kind of the go-to solution to do this kind of timing. So I guess it works out well.
In terms of timing and safety, I mean, considering the majority of the people that tend to compete in events like this have a time of, we'll say, an hour and 20 minutes or less, or maybe an hour and 15 minutes or less. Those events mean that nearly doubling your time to pace yourself and play things a little safer gives the audience a much greater show, gives you a bit more comfort in being able to take on some particular challenges. And hey, what's that enemy sprite on Collier's screen? I don't recognize it.
Just had to re-chat there for a second, and I'm afraid I missed it.
Oh my! There was a swordfish sprite.
Oh, there's a Mythblade though.
Mythblade
Yep.
is a big find.
So yeah, the swordfish sprite is an enemy that he apparently does not want to fight, but is an enemy that in the game is known as a unicorn. And you might know what that means. Or you might not. That's all I'm saying.
Travik is in a pickle here. He has a blue mimic standing in front of a door. And that door, for all we know, could be forced. Normally, the blue mimic encounters only come with blue chests. There's like blue mimic enemies, but in this case, you saw 2 red mimics with it.
Colaris is in a very interesting spot. There is a way to solve this. I believe, but I'm not perfectly sure. Well, we'll have to see.
Gold Gorems are a pretty scary enemy. Buletta, you are correct to be cautious about them. They come occasionally in sets of 3. They are fairly bulky because they resist essentially every type of damage that the player can dish out. They are fast enough that they can outspeed Decker and Guy, and they have a very destructive AoE that can, if used twice, often end a run. Be it a speedrunner, or if you're playing casually and just poking along and killing everything along the way and getting all of your EXP that you can possibly get, Gold Gorems can say, we don't care, and just decimate you with their AoEs without giving a second thought. He manages to take 1 out, but arguably you're not safe until the entire set of them are gone. Now, they are fairly consistent and easy to kite around an area because they rotate slowly. They don't rush after you. You know, every step you take is not a step that they take.
And they're perfectly predictable. There is, there is a little bit of RNG to them, but neglectable in those situations, I want to say. Yep, so he manages to kill the second one, and one of them is easy enough to handle, so he kills all of them. Yeah, Mike, the runner in the previous race here, saying that he would have taken the same route. I would have not taken the same route, interestingly. So yeah, that's how people do different strats. You know, I would have tried to lure him to the lower left and then walk around them. But as I said, I'm not sure whether that would have worked out. I'm reasonably sure that would have skipped the entire encounter. But yeah, I mean, people have different ways of handling these situations, and no matter what you do, well, I mean, you know, to a point, no matter what you do, you will find someone else who goes like, yeah, that doesn't seem like all that bad, you know.
It's absolutely a thing that as a speedrunner you'll learn, but if you stream yourself playing the game, you can always be fortunate to have a particular player or former player come onto the stream and say, hey, better watch out for this guy, or here's how to deal with it, because it's like in most roguelikes, there are very often roadblocks that if you don't know how to deal with them, you know, you can't just push your way through and blast your way through. You have to come at things with a strategic approach, but dealing with them for your first or second or third time, you just may not know. It's intimidating to suddenly be smacked in the back of the head by something you thought was relatively unassuming, and then all of a sudden you gotta start your 4-hour adventure over.
Yeah. And once you learn some of these enemy patterns, you're quickly gonna get on some kind of power trip, being like, "Oh, this is easy. You know, this is much easier than I ever thought." Definitely don't feel bad when, you know, you played this game before, or you're playing this game right now, and you cannot, handle enemies with the same command as these players here, because it does require a lot of, you know, practice, a lot of knowledge, that as a casual player you're very unlikely to obtain, which I say as someone who was always very interested in movement way before I ever got into the speedrun community or involved with speedruns, not even watching them. And I thought I knew a lot about movement, but then like once I joined the community, I learned that there is so much I didn't know. And then I made it my goal to teach the community so much that the community didn't know. So yeah, it's a very fun game in that way.
We saw Calaris entering the 70s. He is on floor 71 right now, fighting a whale, which is another sprite that you don't normally see. Looking at a Kraken sprite, which I played Shining Force 2 for the Sega Genesis. I thought that was that sprite at first.
Yeah, it actually does appear in the game, but not as an encounter sprite.
Yep, it's an enemy that you see in a cutscene near the end of the game, and also you do see it as an enemy in a few other situations.
Yeah. The enemy itself does appear, the encounter sprite does appear, but you never get this enemy from this encounter sprite. So hopefully you guys are appreciating a little bit more, new stuff in the cave. It's definitely, this ROM hack ever since its creation has gathered a lot of positive feedback, I want to say, from a lot of people saying it's pretty cool to play.
Well, it's got just enough different to spice up the adventure without being like a full-on randomizer that completely blows balance out of the water. That being said, there are some randomizers out there for this game. If you want to play a randomized randomizer and deal with the consequences that come with doing such a bold thing, feel free. That's not for me. I prefer to stick with this. But the ROM hack for Guide Struggle was built with some semblance of balance in mind, which makes it, like I said, just different enough to be fun without being too chaotic and difficult to manage.
Yeah. And not to turn this into a ROM hack discussion commentary, we should get back to these runners here in Flash, but I'm just saying, I always appreciate a kind of experience that gives the player the same experience that they would get from a published game, rather than most randomizers will kind of throw their experience out a window because everyone knows it's a ROM hack, and it doesn't matter whether it's realistic or believable or anything like that within the game's logic. I like to put an NPC there, and if an NPC is there, then they should fit into the world, if that makes sense. And Guy will be forever on floor 50 for all I know, because
he needs to
he's not gonna get his way out there.
He needs to learn how to do his own laundry first, and then he can figure out how to do the puzzle.
So yeah.
What we got going on? We have Mini Lily and Calaris, who are both in the low 70s right now. We have Voodoo's not far behind them in the mid 60s.
Very late 60s.
And you say, oh, how do you know what floor you're on? What do you open in the menu to tell you what floor you're on? You don't. But there are enemy compositions on the map that you can look at and say, oh, these only appear between this floor and that floor. So he must be in, say, 63 or 64 because he's fighting salamanders right now. Lily and Calaris are both running around with Orkies, and they just passed the little blue robe teleporter guys. Those only appear from 67 to 71. So again, it's a little way that you can kind of estimate without being super knowledgeable about the game. But at the same time, it's not something that you're just going to pick up on automatically unless you've done it once or twice.
Yep.
A green core for Traffic Talks is absolutely helpful to helping him catch back up in the EXP that he's lost and working on the mad dash to get himself back near the top, or bottom, I guess you could say.
Yeah. He's going down, hopefully the good way though,
So green cores are fabulous enemies. They appear from floors 41 through 43, right before ninjas at 44 through 46. They give the second highest EXP drop in the entire cave, second only to the no core variants of themselves, and more XP than the metallic dragons that you fight at the very end of this. It's phenomenal to have them as an enemy that you can just find in a regular encounter. They are slightly more bulky. In fact, they have just a bit more HP than the blue cores that come before them, but they're weaker. They are less threatening, and it's unexpected and unusual to die from a core. But if you bring Salon or Tia and you're a little bit under leveled, they can get hit by a spell and just get one shot, or maybe ganged up on by 2 or 3 that stick around and get bopped. And when they're dead, they of course don't get the EXP in this game.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, cores are very nice also because they don't really have a very high chance to kill you at any point, right? Like even the red cores, when you have very low levels, sure they can kill you, but
spooky room for Mini Lily over here.
That's a lot of, well, probably Cyclopses, maybe Genies. They're accounted for. But the stairs on this side, so everything's good. Points-wise, we're still looking at 7 to 10, which is very likely due to the heavy shift to points towards the latter half of the game, or rather the jelly floor, because we have reached the latter half of the game already for a long time. But I do see that Lily still did not open 6 chests in the room. This one was definitely not the one she should have chosen for that, but I'm just saying that's still something that's up for grabs for her.
Yeah, the majority of the points that are built into the jam events are points that should be earnable to some degree. Challenges like the Fatal Blowout, which have had points like discover an Iris treasure or discover an engage ring or something. Maybe a black eye. Those are such silly points that I couldn't think of any semblance of trying to balance them around each other. You know, you don't really need tactical skill to find a blue chest in your way towards the end. But for things like have you and your teammate equip your Maxim with the same rock, you know, that encourages, hey, here's enemies. There's 4 or 5 different places in which they're relatively easy to farm. You know, many of them have different weaknesses depending on what your team composition, spell loadout, and everything are. So there's different ways to try to balance an event like this where you're challenging your teams to do certain things together. And finding a party room with 6 chests and opening, 6 plus chests and opening them all, that's probably one of the most difficult ones to balance in, only because a party room is not always something that you're equipped to deal with, but at the same time, it's not the most difficult, just because if you explore every floor and look around, you're bound to find one. I can nary think of an entire run that didn't include a party room somewhere, but speedrunners typically aren't looking for them. Doesn't mean they're not there. You know, floors that you see where you load into a large room with no enemies and no chests typically means that there may be a party group of chests somewhere else along the vicinity of the floor, maybe just, you know, one door away, and all you gotta do is just go and scout around and look for it. Take a few seconds to look around, and if you don't find it, oh well, and if you do find it, cool, that's the point.
Yep. Colliers is in a room full of Archfiends, and he switched his characters to the back row as he should have, to go for optimal survivability, which that probably is responsible for Artie surviving. Well, I guess Artie was already in the back row, but more importantly, he did save Decker from being instant killed here by the Archfiend spell. That was also on Archbro, because it casts stronger.
Arch friends, as Mike coined a while back. I've been hard pressed to forget that term ever since. Archfiends,
yeah,
they
Arch
can come in
is
pairs.
also not my creation, though.
No, that'll catch on one day.
We'll see.
Travatak's already at ninjas. He's been playing for a little under 30 minutes, and he's already 45 floors deep. Just going to show that
it's almost halfway.
If you, he's what, 30 or 40 floors behind the others, and that's not too far behind what the the final floor of the cave would be. So he's able to catch himself up, and he's proving very quickly that having good knowledge and reasonable skill can outweigh the chances of being defeated by 3 white dragons.
Come for you for that.
I'm saying just having that is enough to get you going. You know, Travadox has probably more skill than I do. I got lucky ones. And Voodoo takes a hit to 3 white dragons. That was unfortunate. But it's going to be a little more difficult for Voodoo to catch back up than it was for Travatox with an extra half hour.
Yep. That's unfortunate. I did not see what got him. Did you say white dragons?
It was 3 white dragons, which I believe are what took out Mrs. Mike earlier.
Yeah. I think so too, actually. Yeah, that's unfortunate as always. The theme of mimicking the RS team still prevails, it seems. The question in chat again, is this the same seed? These are not seeded runs. These are completely random. Players do not know anything, and the seeds will not match anyone else's seeds.
Did you just say that the players do not know anything? I feel like that could be a shot at some
about
people who have gotten luck.
Nah, you know what I mean. The players do not know anything that anyone with perfect knowledge about the game, but not the seed, would not know. Does it? Wait. I don't know. You know what I mean, though.
I know what you
Hopefully.
mean.
If you don't, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm going to try and rephrase it. Actually, I'm going to give it to Eli to phrase it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna phrase it by changing the topic. Black Sun asked why Travatox wasn't open chests because he's in a hurry to save time. Travatox was the first to unfortunately die and lose some progress. He lost about 45 minutes, and he's in a rush to play and catch up. So he is now employing any percent strats where he just goes fast and opens chests when necessary to make it to the final floor, and ideally under an hour 10, which is basically a sub RC because his time was roughly 111 when he had to restart his run. And
Sub RC is free. I keep telling people for years, and they keep beating my time for years. So there's got to be something to it, you know.
The sub RC is a joke in our community. It references a time or pace of roughly an hour and 11 minutes. Anything higher than that,
my PB.
You can probably do better than that. AK Real Critical is PB. Anything higher than that, you can
should
probably
do better
get. And anything lower than that it's kind of luck dependent. But anyone who's skilled and studied, what they can, which ought to be able to earn themselves a jelly kill around the Real Critical PB range of that 1 hour 11 minute. Expire, hello.
So Trav zooming right past most of these floors here, zooming right past Guy, and not even, taking a glance.
Not even giving us the humor
right
of a joke.
At the spawn of the floor. Yep. That's fine. Colliers already did. And yeah, that makes it 2 points just for getting the floor 50, so to speak, for their team. So we'll never know what the items are in the center. Those are not random, by the way, so the players do know what those 4 chests contain.
And Travatox was among the first to discover that.
Yep. He was the first to discover that, actually. Arden, creators of the ROM hack. But if you want to figure that out yourself, I suggest you play the ROM hack, or hopefully you won't be spoiled.
I think you can tell people one of them. I mean, Guy flat out told you what he thought one of the things was.
Yeah, I mean, Guy tells you it's... he saw some of Decker's gear in there, so yeah, Decker Blade is one of those items you will get, and Travatox probably had an easy time skipping it because he already holds the Decker Blade.
They're scaring me.
I'm seeing that. Now that needs a little bit of luck here for him to survive that.
We need a cast of Destroy that fails, and we need a stronger heal.
Or maybe he will survive a back row physical hit.
He could. But a Gloomy or a Thunder would be atrocious right now, and we're really hoping to not see either of those. Oh no.
But escaping, I mean, he has to escape, right? Okay.
About 30 points.
That's too bad. Yep. So that's very unfortunate death here for Kaliris as well, which means that Mini Lily is the only runner in this race who has not taken a death yet. But keep in mind, this race is scored by points, so you can look at the scores command, or rather the link posted by the bot after the fact, to see what goals people have to meet in order to get those points. And Travatox and Kalaeris, I mean, Travatox is still doing reasonably strong here, but they're definitely not out of the park simply because Lily is, ahead on floors.
I mean, you don't have to as well kill the final boss in order to earn a ton of points in this challenge. Simply making it and performing a proper series of tasks is enough to earn a fair variety of points. So ideally, Lily gets there, performs all of those tasks, earns her series of points, and gives their team a spark of a catch-up. Unfortunately, once she concludes the Jelly Battle, she's not allowed to re-enter, restart, and catch up again. But it still is, a fair handful of points that she gets simply by making it there. She gets 1 point for simply making it there as the first two racers that make it. She gets there with all of her characters at 100% IP. She doesn't have to have her teammate alive for that.
No. Unfortunately, it's very unrealistic for Voodoo or Colliers to make it to the Jelly. It's been mentioned in the last race. Technically, Voodoo could get there with a world record pace run, or of course, if you're not going for the jelly kill, then you can go a lot faster. So it's not impossible, but still improbable. However, Traffic Tux and Mini Lily still have every chance to get there. Mini Lily, of course, being already at floor 80.
But once you hit certain intervals of floors, again, certain enemies will spawn. Early on, they tend to flip and flop between every 3 floors. You'll see a new composition or 2 appear, and another one leaves the batch. When you get to these late floors, passing floor 71 into 72, you'll have a branch of enemies that appear here and there, but also a bunch that stick around from 72 all the way through 87. And then you have in between there, around the mid 80s, some of the metallic dragons will begin appearing. I think it was 82 that they appear in, and they appear all the way till the end of the cave. So that goes from enemies that are semi-threatening but only stick around for a couple of floors to enemies that are extremely threatening and stick around for nearly 1/5 of the run. So how you deal with the enemies that have certain movement patterns is extremely important, especially as you get to late cave, where the end is just, around the corner. All you have to do is sneeze and hit a wrong input. You might be doing something that can just get you decimated. If your name is Kriegspire and you've come to wish that upon people, I'll smack you. But it is important that you become proficient in counting all the way to 3, because that will help you stay out of a lot of danger as you go through, and that's part of it too.
Cave runners famously cannot count to 3.
Hopefully Lily will be able to see very few forced battles against dragons and the teleporting guys with the green robes named Dark Summoners, because either battle with those other than a silver dragon for a point or a copper dragon for some IP farming is potentially devastating. See a few more interesting enemies on Traffic Talks' screen. Those are not enemies that are typically in the cave.
I don't even know how to pronounce them. Aqualoy, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Or maybe you don't have to guess, but yep. Voodoo's already has the 6 chess point marked. When players die in this race, their points are not invalidated in any way, so he does keep that goal from the first run through.
Yeah, that's another point to emphasize, is that where in the Bane game, if you die, you lose all your stuff, you lose your blue chest, everything. In the Jelly Jam events, and in pretty much all of our events, I believe Fatal Lotus too, if you find something, unless you have a point specifically built around being alive or reaching a certain point or something, you're going to keep your point with you. So there are certain points such as earn $666,000 or coins, gold dollars, whatever, across your team combined. If you have, say, 500k and your teammate has 100k, and then one of you dies, technically you didn't lose that point, but if you earn it and you're able to show on screen that you have it, well, then you could die and you have displayed proof that you had the point at one moment, so that stays on your scorecard as completed.
Yeah, you don't actually have to worry about showing it off because it shows it at the end of the battle screen as well. So as long as you have that amount, you will always have it in the VOD that you have it.
It'll be at the end of the last battle screen you survive. And there's always one battle before the one that kills you.
Yeah.
Even the jelly battle too will show it. It will show how much gold you gain and then show what your total is at the end. Technically, you don't really gain much from the jelly fight itself, but I mean, you do gain gold from that fight, so I think you get one whole gold piece.
And if anyone ever chooses the kill count ROM hack for their 2 races next week, also next Saturday, same time, same place, then they will also show the amount of kills at the end of every battle screen.
Speaking of kill counter ROM hack, that's the one that we haven't seen yet applied in today's event. We've seen 3 players use the vanilla pack, or sorry, the lack of a patch, the vanilla game scoring style.
And the lack of patch. And
then we've seen the 1 team Caliers and Traffic Talks here using the Guy Struggle. The kill counter patch is a patch that simply does one thing, and that is reset the gold that all enemies drop to 1. It's specifically designed in such a way so that way you can track how many enemies that you have gained EXP from. and can be used as a kill counter. Not the most accurate kill counter, because you could theoretically kill something and then flee and then return to the battle and kill maybe another thing and then flee and do it again. But it does emphasize just how much your violence gains as far as EXP for you. So it's a great means to just keep track of what it is that you're doing. And that's kind of what it's used for. In that particular scoring style, players are encouraged to defeat enemies sort of in tandem with each other. So you could think of it like they're playing or doing a foot race in a situation where they have ropes tied around their waist so they can't be too far ahead or behind each other in terms of kill counts. So they'll have to strategically plan how many enemies they kill and what enemies they defeat. That way they can try to optimize the EXP that they gain, or maybe they catch up with each other based on how the other has done. But again, it's just a vanilla game other than gold, which is entirely useless in the Ancient Cave.
Yep, so I guess the choice that's been made was made due to the goals, as you mentioned, since that is pretty much the difference. Meaning these vanilla games, these vanilla goals here were apparently very attractive to people. So those being bring Salon, which Voodoo and Millie, Voodoo's and Mini Lily both did, and then collecting 6,666 and some change gold, and giving a Silver Dragon full turn in combat. So, yep. The latter two have not quite yet happened.
I think we were close in the other one. Defeating dragons isn't super difficult if you have a deadly weapon, and depending on which one of Lily and Voodoo's has it equipped right now, or at least available to equip right now, it can become a fairly easy chore for Lily to try to churn out in these last 10 floors over the next 30 minutes.
Yeah. It always depends on how much time you want to dedicate to that. Because it does take a long time to farm those enemies, and you have to start reasonably early, because, you know, if you start on floor 98, you're gonna run out of dragons, you know, so yep. It's always a bit of planning involved, time dedication, and unfortunately, no matter how much Voodoo wants to contribute, early floor enemies just don't drop that much gold, so I'm not sure how much of a help he's gonna be in that regard. Unfortunately, through no fault of his own.
It's worth going one step further on that. Cores, which are the ideal enemy to engage in combat with for EXP, they only drop 1 gold each. So if you're trying to gain EXP to catch yourself up to become powerful to deal with additional enemies, if you're not even able to get a core down, then you're stuck at an extreme disadvantage. But if you get down a core to, all you've done is given yourself some stats to find enemies to deal with later. You haven't really set yourself up with a gold advantage.
Yep. I want to point out Traffic Talks here is at floor 81 right now. So, yep, that's been a bit of a dash, I believe. 30 floors in 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Lily is also in the 80s, and she has been the front runner who has not yet had to restart the run. And ideally, she won't have to at all. But, of course, she has spent more time opening chests, discovering enemy drops, whatever the case may be. Travatox is just hauled tail, and he knows that there's a fair amount of points that he can earn simply by making it to the end, maybe doing 1 or 2 little things along the way. So he is demonstrating once again just how talented you can be.
I do wonder
if you're a little knowledgeable.
Yeah. I do wonder whether Travatox actually has any kind of kill equipment, you know, whether he were worried about experience. I especially wonder about that right now, because he is no, as I say that. Yeah.
That was another forced battle, unfortunately. Archfiend battles are so often forced, and you can't predict what they'll do, and if you don't have the proper equipment and high enough levels, they'll just get you. And even if you do have high levels, they could just instant kill you with the destroy spell and give you a bad time.
That's very unfortunate, because obviously, no matter how fast of a runner Travatox is, he probably will not. I will have to say probably still, but he probably won't make it to Jelly anymore, which leaves Mini Lily as the carrier of hope as far as the possible Jelly kill is concerned in this race. And yeah, let's hope she's able to make her way down there, and let's hope she has the proper equipment to kill the jelly. And why I'm mentioning the jelly kill when this tournament is scored by points is that there is up to 5 points. Well, I'm saying 5 points. Yep, that's correct though. To gain from the jelly kill alone, which is the difference between the two teams right now. So Traffic Talks and Caballeros have to get, well, basically whatever chance they have at still getting points, and I'm not gonna lie, so I'm not seeing a lot of points that they can still get. I'm seeing both players have one of the same rock and jewel equipped. I think that is the only goal that they still can get reasonably in the amount of time, if I'm, making a couple of assumptions. So their theoretical max score right now, as I see it, would be 13. If it's possible that I'm missing something. Well, I am missing Eli for once as a co-commentator, but
Hey.
Yeah, Lily on it's fine, man. It's fine. I was just, whenever I'm doing a wall of text, written or in speech,
I'm looking through as well, trying to see if there's something else that I'm missing that you have missed.
Don't worry, it's all good. It's all good. I was just gonna say, Voodoo's the Mini Lily, of course, assuming they would get all 5 points for the jelly, they would only tie the other two then, because the 1 point that Trajectories and Cavaliers can get is anything but easy. So, yeah. Assuming they get those 5 points, can they get any other goals? Well, Mini Lily could open 6 chests. Apparently she equipped some from the blue chest because that's not marked. But again, we've had last round's occurrence where people had just not marked that, and eventually it came out.
I haven't caught her equipping one, but I'll have to make sure.
Yeah.
I know she grabbed a few, but I did see her feed them. I don't recall seeing her equip them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, checking VODs for multiple racers during a run.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, yeah, that leaves Uncursed the same item, I suppose, for them. Which I don't know whether either of them has a curse lifter at this point, but there's 25 minutes, so...
I saw Voodoo's pick up a Deadly Rod.
That's probably good.
And Lily is still encouraged to open many chests if she's able to discover a party room, so there is very good reason to suspect that if she has something to uncurse, that she could simply wait for Voodoo's to find something. And ideally, stage out her jelly kill by an extra 10 or 15 minutes. It's not like she's in any danger of losing her first two of 4 people to reach the jelly within 2 hours.
Rumor has it that the Flame Shield got auto-equipped into chat. So, yeah, that of course could always be. I mean, on the one hand, that would be quite unfortunate. On the other hand, that means she can equip as many blue chest items now as she wants. Of course, if you're saying she fed them all, then that's a bit suboptimal, but nevertheless. So I believe we're seeing IP farming here.
Yep, there is the incentive to reach the final floor with 100% IP on all characters, and now, while we haven't done the Silver Dragon dance yet,
I was going to point that out.
There is always the possibility that Silver Dragon will just cast Bravery twice and leave the party's HP alone.
Yeah, the question is whether you want to farm IP before you even attempt that, And unfortunately, while or during the assumed IP farm, Cinder Blast strikes at the most unfortunate time.
He does have Trick, and Bravery, so she may be able to set up a Solen situation where she won't get one shot by Cinder Blast. But again, she still has to take a little bit of time to find a Silver Dragon to prep out that point with, if she's still able and comfortable and interested in going for that one.
Yeah, Selen is a rather squishy character in this game. She doesn't tank very well. And as such, while IP farming, you always have to kind of sort of maneuver around it. And spells like Bravery aren't usually mentioned in the speedrunning community much, but yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
So
It raises your defense.
Every 2 points of defense roughly translates to -1 point of physical damage, and Cinder Blast is considered a physical attack. So her being in the back row, which allows her to take reduced damage, and her also gaining roughly 85 defense, means that she ought to take hopefully around 160 damage for Cinder Blast and be able to survive one. Maxim, or sorry, her main character also in the front row took about 280 from a Cinder Blast earlier, and he only has a cap of 266 HP right now, so he needed a bravery boost just to be able to survive one, assuming it doesn't roll to max whatnot. Another strategy.
Decker Blade for Voodoofs.
There's our Decker Blade now.
Yeah.
Late portion of the run. So a strategy that you mentioned is you don't typically see the spell Bravery being used. It is the weaker of the two defensive buff spells. There is another spell though called Fake, and Fake can be useful to increase your party's agility, and depending on how high your level is, a character like Salon or Tia or Artie, who may be just a little bit ill-equipped but at a fairly comfortable 30-something level, can be set up to outspeed the dragon. The way defending works in this game is that when you defend, you reduce the damage that you take after you have defended. So Decker going last after pretty much every foe always goes means he won't be taking any reduced damage because he's defending after. But Salon, if you're able to have her outspeed the dragon, she can just simply defend and use that opportunity to take less damage entirely. So Artie defending here means, he'll take, 70 damage or so from Cinder Blast, which is, of course, extremely small. Compared to Salon, who's about to take roughly, I'd say 150. 180, jeez. Even with a defense boost, I think that exactly killed her.
So let me drag your attention here for a second to the orange team. Colliaris Traffic Talks with a dramatic weight on the result screen. Colliaris managed to get an Eagle Rock drop from regular Eagles, and Traffic Talks finds himself on hog floors, which is not something I usually say during cave commentary. But they supposedly, actually have no idea, have a higher drop chance for an Eagle Rock than regular Eagles do, which is at 2%. So, yeah, whatever the higher chance is hopefully going to be enough for them to, well, I mean, I'm not taking sides, but that is the one goal they can still go for. So, in order to save them from further pursuing a goal that they will never reach, I will hope that they get it sooner rather than later.
It is a bold goal, and I appreciate it.
Exactly. So I was thinking before, which rock are they even going to go for? And I was thinking Eagle Rock, nah, but then with the Hawks and all, I don't know if it's make believe that Hawks have a higher drop chance.
Well, there's Hawks and the Eagles, and there's also horses, which could have been worth going for.
Yeah, fair. But I mean, they drop a horse rock, but yeah.
My favorite, the apron
Colliaris already has the Eagle Rock, right? So it's only Traffic Talks who has to get lucky. And I mean, I've gotten 2 Eagle Rocks in the first 5 minutes of a tournament, so why shouldn't he get one?
You can theoretically discover one in the chests on floors 3 through 9 or 4 through 9. As well as finding.
Maybe, I don't know, yeah. It's
Finding
very rare, though. There go a couple of Hawks.
Voodoofs, I see. I think Voodoof went and rushed to find a Cancer Rock, hoping that Lily has a Cancer Rock as well.
I see.
We showed that one off on screen for a few extra seconds, implying that Lily has a Cancer Rock in her possession, and we'll see it on top of Maxim, which is a point as well, once we have that confirmed. Lily approaching floor 99. She is in 91 right now, so this is definitely a home stretch, although it is not safe by any means. Despite all the levels that she's found and everything, she's still struggling to set up Salon with enough IP to survive. There's the Cancer Rock, yep. But they have earned that point.
Nice. So I guess, trusting on that should put them at 8. Right, yeah. So Lily marked it. Voodoo has not yet marked it, but as soon as he does, that is gonna be a point for them. So the real score is 8-12 right now.
I'll mark it here for him. There it goes. So
Yep.
Travic is
now
doing
cycling
something
through.
even more entertaining. Instead of providencing, he's just resetting the game.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean, it's faster, you know.
It is faster, yeah. It is a bold strategy, but it's not one that would surprise me from Travic Fox. He is one of the more aggressive and knowledgeable players out here. And he, in terms of streaming too, he is one of the people that you'll see streaming Ancient Cave content more often than the majority of the others in the community, just because I think due to his availability, he just has the luxury of being able to do so. It's not something I'm not able to do, unfortunately.
Yeah, I also see Mini Lily stream cave every once in a while. Voodoo's, at least lately, with the tournament coming up. Yeah, there was a couple of our runners streaming it, but never enough. So, you know, anyone who wants to casually pick up this game, go ahead and do so. I'll never give up.
There are two.
We've had a really good increase in the last couple of years in runners, you know.
We had a lot of new faces show up for sure, and with the tools and information available for new runners these days, there has been a lot of success, I would say, in people jumping into the cave. Not a lot of people have stuck around, but those that have done absolutely well.
Yeah, and I mean, some that have stuck around have really helped build the community and all, you know. So, yep, always glad to see new people to teach the old runners new tricks. I'm seeing some eyes.
Yeah. Is Mike Clan going to be the next great speedrunner? So he's one of the newer runners as well, and it is absolutely worth calling him out because he's done a pretty good job of making a name for himself and doing some pretty.
For sure.
Yes, Libacious. Summoners can jump rooms. There are a handful of teleporters that can teleport from room to room depending on how you enter them and where they can go to. It can be very scary because occasionally they can teleport into the doorway, and depending on where they land in the doorway, you may not be able to see them. Or they may be stuck in the doorway. When you try to re-enter the room, they will be stuck facing whatever direction they teleported in that door, and that can really be scary, especially with these dark summoners who are just so incredibly threatening.
Yep. But again, their patterns and quirks are completely known, and with enough knowledge that's compatible in most situations. The problem is always when you get in a situation where it's not handleable, not because of RNG, because of RNG, because of floor layouts and stuff, you know, enemies spawning in a certain shape, then you have to improvise.
Lily is trying her darndest to get Salon some IP. She's going after these dark summoners, which have an instant kill ability, and just deal a hefty amount of damage and can summon enemies which are extremely threatening. The Leech, which you see on screen now, which also has an instant kill spell. She wants the IP for that point, and Cinder Blasts from Copper Dragons are just a bit too punishing for Salon in the back row to deal with comfortably. One thing that's not discussed too much, but is absolutely something worth considering, I'm hoping people pick up on this, is that when you're trying to do something where you prepare your defenses, using courage or bravery to increase your defense, the agility stat also counts towards your defense. For every 2 points of agility, 1 point is applied to your defense. So casting the fake spell to increase agility, and in that case by 20% of what your current stat is just from one single cast, that on a character like Salon, who's got reasonable agility, could be about another 20 or so defense, which is another minus 10 or so damage. That could have been the difference in her surviving Cinder Blast earlier. I don't recall seeing her cast fake, or at least multi-casting it to layer it up. It's one of those obscure things that you just kind of figure out by doing it, or studying the numbers and thinking, where can I apply this tech? And that's pretty much the only one I can think of.
IP farming in general isn't a very easy thing to pick up. There is kind of the easy route of just farming a Copper Dragon if you're running Maxim Gaideck or Artie. But yeah, with Selen, it's a different animal, and that's part of the difficulty of this goal here. It just says bring Selen, but it does come with a couple of. It does come with fine print.
Yep, so other characters to bring other than Selen, we already have Decker and Artie, and of course Maxim in the party who's forced. You could bring Tia, who is a girl who's a little bit squishier than Salon, but noticeably faster, and therefore can more easily reach the thresholds. Travatox gets the Eagle Rock.
He got it.
Hot. Oh wait, he has to equip it first. There it is.
Yeah. So I see scores on the drop. Yep. Very nice. So that's 13 points for them, and well, I guess they can now chill.
Yeah.
They got 12 minutes of just hanging out.
It's worth noting too that in the prior run, what was the final score? 12-11 by
11-13.
Oh, it was 11-13. All right, so a team that made it to the Jelly managed to have 13 points that called themselves the winners. Here are Travatox and Calaris, two teams who did not make it to the Jelly, and they still earned 13 points through effort, determination, and talent. So again, it's a variety of players. We have Travatox, a world-class speedrunner of the Ancient Cave, top 3 world time. We have Pankraz, who's kind of, I hate to say the new kid, but he showed up out of nowhere about a year ago, got a sub-hour time, and just kind of left after about a month worth of practice. And then Possum Morpheus, who has just gotten his first Jelly kill a week ago. Between those players getting top scorers, despite having such wildly different results, just goes to show that anyone can do this. You as an audience member who want to give this a try are more than welcome to come in and find a community that will be willing to help train you and teach you and get you comfortable to understand what's out there and accomplish some pretty cool things.
Yep. So let's take a look at this from the blue team side here. They're again 5 points behind. Does Lily have to go for the 100% IP? That really is the question here, right? Because Voodoo is doing his darn best to find a curse lifter and an item to uncurse that they both have apparently. Because I think that is the only thing that he can do still to gain points reasonably within the time limit, right?
Yeah, he's not going to be able to make it to a silver dragon at this rate.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think so. Not with opening this many chests. So, yeah, assuming that happens, there would still have to be 4 Jelly goals, one of which has to be defeat the Jelly. I unfortunately do not have much idea of what Lily has other than what you covered earlier. Reaching the final floor at 100% IP is another one, and being the first, of course, that will be a guaranteed goal. And then she still has to only use each skill once. That is not a fractional, and she still has to defend at the Jelly. So that is a tall order.
Also, she hasn't gained any levels since that last attempt at IP grinding earlier, in which her Salon that was boosted by 3 defensive spells still got one shot by the spell. I would say that was a high roll, unfortunately. I think that she could survive under certain circumstances, especially with using Fake as a defensive boost as well. But that said, she's still trying to get the opportunity for IP farming, and I think she's just pushing as hard as she can to get something going.
Yeah. It should be noted, which we also mentioned during the last race, but for anyone who didn't catch it, as soon as Lily gets to floor 99 in time, aka before the time limit runs out, she can take her sweet time at the Jelly, as much time as possible for doing the setup and all. I know how feeding goes, where it is excluded. I'm sure you can let me know, Eli, but in general, once she gets to floor 99, she's gonna be, set for a Jelly fight.
Well,
and doesn't have to worry about time anymore.
There's a distinct possibility that Voodoo's may be able to find some very good food and feed up his capsule monster to form 3, we'll say, because it's not too difficult to get to form 3. by the time you hit the mid-40s in terms of just finding some decent stuff.
Also, that's interesting. So, what if Lily reaches the Jelly at, say, an hour 59 and 59? Is Voodoo still allowed to feed the capsule in order for Lily to still be allowed?
No,
to feed
he would not. His preparation
Okay,
time
yeah,
would
that's
have
what I
not
thought.
ever happened because he didn't
Yeah.
make the Jelly to prepare.
Exactly.
But still,
Okay,
that does give him an incentive to find some good loot and stuff it down his capsule monster's throat with 4 minutes to spare.
Yeah. I think they even both have their capsule at Form 3, or, well, Voodoo's doesn't anymore, but Lily does. So, yeah. That's of course a bit of an extra shame.
Oh man.
That she's not allowed to use it.
She didn't set hers back. I didn't even that. Or did she set hers back?
Yeah, she did.
Oh, that's right. So if she wants to use Form 3 Sully, Voodoo has to get Form 3
exactly.
Flash. Oh, okay, that's all.
Yeah. Which, you know, I don't know. He could potentially at the floors, he said. And he did open a lot of chests, to be fair, so maybe that's a possibility. But yeah, again,
yeah, usually around the time that an average speedrun hits ninja floors, you can get your capsule monster to form
capsule 3.
Especially if you found a blue chest or two or a magic fruit, just to speed feed yourself a little bit. So there are.
And we're seeing a feeding screen here, so maybe that's exactly what's gonna happen. And the smoke ball. Oh, there's still the silver goal for the blue team. I totally did not think of that. So of course Voodoo cannot get it, but Lily can.
Right.
So
I'm not sure what.
That's even combinable with an IP farm.
Theoretically,
dare I say so? Yeah. So dragons never killed anyone, which is a good thing.
Oh well, Lily killed all the dragons, though it would seem.
Yep.
But that
won't
gives her
be the silver dragon.
That gives her Selene a little bit of extra bulk and HP, which matters.
Yep. See, still 4 summoners, you know, she's probably looking for 1, maybe 2, you know. Because killing off some of them at this point is just gonna cost so much time and it's still a bit risky. I reckon, so...
It's unfortunate that at this point, there's 5 minutes to go and just 2 floors left to explore. You can tell she's desperately looking for some key item, some rare luck to find. And she wants to explore the floors, but she doesn't want to take too long on each floor. And Lily is a very seasoned runner. She does 100% runs. She has a world record in the 100% category, and I believe she's almost earned it in a second category for 100%. So she knows her way around enemies. She knows just how threatening certain things can be, and she knows how to deal with troublesome encounters. It's just a matter of her getting them.
Yep. And she does have 5 minutes to work with, so the thing here is she does have to, you know, kind of distribute those 5 minutes on the remaining goals. And if there is a choice of, you know, maybe not getting to Jelly with full IP or not getting the silver goal, you're gonna forego the silver goal because that's only 1 point, and the Jelly is a potential 5. But to get those potential 5, a lot of things have to go well.
You know, there's one thing I hadn't considered, which in point development can kind of apply here. In order to minimize entering duplicate actions, if you have dead party members, you have not very many people to enter duplicate actions with. So I guess that point is a little easier to achieve than I may have originally intended.
Are you saying having dead people in the party is an advantage?
Well,
in some weird scenario.
You lose the ability to get 4 characters to full IP, yes, but you still have the ability to have a character defend and use 2 unique actions. So if you get there with 1 character alive, I mean, like I said, there's a defend and 2 unique actions, so you've met the requirements. That's 2 points. That's plus a point to make it. Lily does not want to
I will say...
It's tough.
It only mentions same item, spells, or IP abilities, so you could just defend with that character 3 times.
Yeah, defend with too. That would be
We'll see, maybe there's a last second Yeah, clutch IP farm.
I think if I were to make it there with one character alive and no IP with which to speak, I would take turn 1 to defend, and turns 2 and 3 to show players off the neat way to theoretically complete the battle without completing the battle.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Now, if Lily managed to score a Decker Blade and has a handful of other very powerful equipment options for Maxim and Artie, who are arguably have enough IP to do what they need to do, she could theoretically score Jelly Kill. It would be rather difficult because doing it with one less person would be challenging, especially with fewer spell options and everything too. But it is out there.
Yeah. Lily supporters in chat is still going strong. So
Lily clearly a fan favorite with a positive following.
Of course, I'm hoping she's gonna get there as well, simply for dramatic tournament presentation purposes.
Yeah, the stairs are in this room, and all she needs to do is, I think if the Leech were to cast Ice Bulk, or maybe Salon were to get punched twice, maybe one punch and one Black Thunder, that would be it. Buletta asks if they're fighting the boss when the timer hits 0, do they have to stop? No.
Yeah.
The caveat to this time is if you reach the final floor, then you have, as long as you've reached there within the 2-hour time limit, you have as much time as you need to prep. And you can take as much time as you need to complete the jelly fight. Well, within reason, of course. We're not going to stay live for 3 hours.
There's a Dark Summoner and a Hades now, which is, or is that a Hades Chariot?
That's the weaker one,
which
the
is
Hades Chariot.
Yeah, which is not too bad, for IP farming purposes.
He has a minute left to have Salon get hit twice, pretty much.
Yep. And not perished. And Artie as well. Artie's still missing.
Yeah, Dark Aura will clear that up pretty quickly.
Here we go.
There, that was, we'll say, with 20 seconds per round of combat, she has enough time to possibly squeeze this one out.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Now the
Gold is good.
Oh, that could be it. She's just going for it. All right, let's see what she's got. 100. She pulled that off.
She did pull it off. Wow, nice. All right. So just to communicate what we've been talking about there.
The reason that worked is because when a character has less HP and they take damage, the less HP they have, the more IP they gain. So because she was already hit from that first attack, he was able to secure a little bit more IP gain from the second one, which I believe that was the key factor in making it work.
Yep. So she did get the reach the final floor with all characters at 100% IP. And yeah. Now she has to somehow get close to Jelly Kill and or maximize her points. We'll see what kind of action she's going for, but again, the timer being stopped at a very interesting 19 seconds and 200s is not relevant anymore. She has as much time as she needs for this. It looks like Voodoo's is feeding the capsule now, though. So
now, Flash was at Form 2 before the time hit 0. So Lily does have access to Sully 2.
Yeah, so the question is whether she knows that if Voodoo's is feeding right now, so, I don't know if you want to engage into some last-minute messaging there, just to make sure that everything goes in order, or I don't know how you want to handle it. Fortunately, not my department, but, yep. We'll see.
Lily has a Deadly Rod, a Lizard Blow, an Air Whip with a Cancer Rock, and an Uncursed Deadly Sword. A very interesting setup. I suppose that they haven't lost the Deadly point, because having two Uncursed Deadlies, uncursed one at a time, means that you never had 2 deadly weapons equipped simultaneously.
Yeah.
I also suspect that maybe Lily doesn't realize that he doesn't actually have access to Sully 3 here, technically, because Flash 3 was fed up after the timer ended.
Yeah. Either that, I mean, she's feeding to Sully 4 right now, right?
Yeah,
So
maybe she just wants to give people a show.
Exactly, I was about to say.
She's doing it for the people. I completely support that.
Yeah. I said earlier, you're not just gonna cut the stream if someone goes to a Jolly Ender without the requirements given by the tournament. So, yep. Let's see what Lily comes up with here, and we're just gonna roll with it.
Well, that said, everybody, say hello to Sully Form 4. Get your Moai heads out like Pancras has already done. Whip out those calculators and give Lily.
Sully will defend. Yep.
Let's see if Sully defends. It's gonna be a very tight kill. If we see a battle anger from Sully, especially on turn 2 or 3, we'll be looking surprisingly okay, but it's still an uphill battle.
I mean, there can be more than one battle anger.
Trick is gonna
It
help.
has happened before.
With Decker's Lizard Blow, Trick is gonna be allowing me to do a huge amount of damage on turn 3, I'm assuming he'll use it. Probably following it.
It's not a battle cry. It's a battle slap.
Battle tap.
Battle tap.
It's like Lily was not going to cast Thunder, which was restricted. But she's staying within the confines of that.
Yep. Maybe still trying to maximize the points. Or, I mean, I'm saying maybe. Probably just, not just, probably trying to maximize her points.
We're at 5,312 right now. Sadly, I don't think it's going to be feasible to do over 4,500 damage in this turn.
Maybe with a really good battle anger? No.
Sully defends. What a valiant defense he did.
Yeah, so GG.
I'm out of here.
This is not the point total for the blue team, so they actually gotten more points than it shows here right now, and I believe, yeah, they're increasing it as we speak. So, yeah, very nice game. Are we seeing another 11-13?
I'm looking at the points, and
Oh, I guess the capsule goal is still marked, I will have to say.
where's the capsule goal on the
Has to be
tracker?
a little bit of a party pooper there. That's on the right, fourth from the top.
We'll have to break that one. That's minus 1 point in this case.
Yeah.
I DM'd each player to let them know. All right, I'm gonna drag everybody in here. Give me just a moment. We'll have a little quick wrap up.
Nice, and in the meantime, I'm just gonna say thanks to everyone watching. We're not just quite out there, you know, still bringing people in voice, having a short
GG
chat.
to all the runners. Traffic Talks and Calieris are in the same building, so we don't have one of them in chat.
GG.
Voodoops and Mini Lee, congratulations, GG. You all did a fantastic job. Traffic, your Eagle Rock push was nothing short of beautiful. Your damage that Lily was estimated at a little over 8,500. Pulling up in chat. Creed Spire calculated 8,150-ish. 7936, okay. Yeah, there's around 88,000 then, which is reasonable. Pretty darn good damage for what setup you had. It was a good day. It was a good run. I unchecked the capsule point because only Sully 2 I'm sorry, only Flash 2 existed before.
Yeah, before time ran out. Yeah.
So, I mean, I know you were going for a kill. I totally support it. Style points, giving the people what they want is totally fine. And you do a good show. I mean, Travis and Calieres did well. It was a rough run. Everybody has some pretty tough hurdles to climb through, and good play all around. You all did fantastic. But yeah, I'll have to declare today's victor for round 2 as Travis talks and Calieres, meaning that Lily and Voodoo, you guys will be challenging the Mikes on round 2, day 2, next Saturday. And Travis talks Calieres, they'll be going after Pancrabs and Possum in round 1 to determine the grand champion of Jelly Jam 2024. So
Yeah,
again, thank you for
that will be next week, so you guys join us as well. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And yeah, Eli, take it away.
Yeah, no, it was a wonderful run. Everyone did a fantastic job. I was really proud to have everyone sign up and participate, especially with this being a little bit more of a short notice event. But between Twitch chat showing up strong as always and giving everyone something good to rile up and be excited for, and with one more event next week going on, it's nothing short of confidence that I feel, because I know that next week's going to be an even better show. And hey, we got a Jelly Kill and Jelly Jam, so next week giving us maybe 2, 3, we'll aim high. And I'm excited to see what people do. Next week's going to be interesting now that everyone's got a good flow and understanding of what the challenge is going to be. So thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you for participating in the events today. Chat, if you are wanting to follow the event more closely, we don't have a social media account, but we do track and record all of our activities in the Ancient Cave Discord, which I just linked. And if you'd like to participate in events in the future, know that our Fatal Blowouts tend to occur around the summer, while we plan Jelly Jams in the winter. So now is a great time to start picking up this game and practicing if you want to sign up for a future event. With that, I'll end stream here. You guys can get back to your regularly scheduled day. Go have a break, eat some lunch, say hi to the family, and stay tuned for next Saturday, in which we conclude the Jelly Jam event for this year.